Vegetables. Eat them now or your colon will end up suffering when your colonic microbiome goes to complete hell. But till then, you have to keep moving forward. And part of that is learning to enjoy peppers and onions regardless of whether or not you like them, because they are both cheap and plentiful. Now, when you're clearing these up, you want to save as much of the pepper as possible, so I found the beheading method to work the best. This is just when you run it as high as you can on the pepper and pull out the entire seed head in one go. Then you just got to reach in there and you pull out the little tendrils, and then that should give you all of the pepper flesh you're after. Now, for this recipe, it's pretty much just 1 serrano pepper, 2 bell peppers, preferably of different colors, 2 onions if they're small, or 1 onion if it's very large. Then it's just simply salt, pepper, and heat. Like I said, very, very simple recipe. All right, you just want to chop it into fork-sized chunks here. That's kind of the size that you would want in a burrito or on a rice bowl. One thing that's also nifty is, as much as it sucks to have to eat your veggies, these do help keep you full throughout the day, which is very convenient. Mostly because if you don't have a lot of time to eat, or you don't have the kind of money where you can just stop at a gas station and grab a taquito whenever you want, this is the kind of thing that keeps you healthy until you can get to wherever you need to be next. And another thing that's very convenient about this is the fact that this actually keeps pretty well. Once you're done cooking, if you throw this in a Tupperware and throw it in your fridge, it will actually last pretty decent. Even beyond that, it also reheats pretty well, which is not what I expected. Now, for this, I also want it to be said, I don't hide the fact that I like to cook things in bacon grease just because it helps hide the flavor of whatever you're cooking. But in this situation, you're just going to want a dry skillet. You're not going to try to fight it like that. And in the case of your onions, you're going to do about the same thing. You want them as fork-sized pieces, which usually means halving your onions and then slicing them. Now, with the 2 end pieces, those are usually wider than all of the other slices just because, you know, it's a sphere. So those you're going to have to chop down the middle as well. Now, given how much of this video is just me chopping, I am going to expedite the process by hitting the fast forward button, because we all have things to do. And there we go. One thing that's also nice about fast forwarding is that it makes me look significantly more talented with a knife than I am. Because in reality, I cut with the grace and skill of a drowning cheetah. And remember to try to peel off as thin a layer as you can from your onions. You don't want to waste any of your valuable produce. The stuff isn't cheap. Well, nothing's cheap when you're poor, but that's another matter. Perfect. One thing I've always found weird about peppers and onions is everyone I've ever met either seems to love them or hate them. I've never found anyone that's just blatantly indifferent. I've always found that very odd. In my mind, I think it has something to do with the fact they have very similar textures. And I think with people that don't like onions, they just can't handle the layers and complexity that it provides. Because onions are cheap flavor. And if you're in a situation where you can't afford expensive flavor, you work with what you got. All right, there's our onion pile. Now we're going to apply this to a dry skillet on medium to high heat. However, the way I do it personally is I start off on high heat with my onions first. I put the lid on these bad boys and I count to 60, so that's about a minute. This will start to give the onions that little bit of sear, which adds a little bit more complexity to the flavor, and in my opinion just gives you that char that you desperately want, but you don't have a grill because your apartment complex doesn't allow them. So, now that that 60 seconds is done, go ahead and add your peppers, all of them. Flatten that out a bit, keep it on high, and keep it going for another 60 seconds. Now, by the time this is done, they'd be in an edible state, but not a comfortably cooked state. So once we're done with this, we're also going to want to put it back down to medium. At this point, we're just trying to cook them till they soften. We're not trying to turn them into mush, and we're not trying to get any more char on them. That little bit of kiss of heat on the onions is exactly what we need and not $1 more. All right, as we can see here, when the onion chunks start to break up on their own, that's how you know things are going pretty well. And that's the deal. Just sort of let it steam for a while. Once you're satisfied with how it's mixed in, remember everything that touches that serrano pepper is going to have a little bit of that taste on it. Then we're going to put our lid back on and let it steam for another 60 seconds to help soften it up while we get our salt and pepper ready. Like I said, this recipe just involves a lot of waiting for it to get to the right level of softness for what you want. All right, 60 seconds later, give it a stir. Now we're going to hit it with the salt, hit it with the pepper, and that at the very least will give a little bit more dimension to the otherwise bland flavor of vegetables. So give that one last stir to make sure it's all mixed in. And just like that, you now have enough veggies that you can have enough servings to get you through the week. Anywho, thank you for your time. Have a good day.